Imagine shrinking down to a size so tiny that you could walk on a leaf's surface and peek into its microscopic rooms, each one teeming with life. Sounds like science fiction, right? But it's not. It's the groundbreaking discovery of cells. Before we dive in, let me ask, where do you think life comes from? Do living things simply appear? Or is there something deeper at play? To find that out, let's have the story entitled The Hidden Kingdom, The Cell Revolution. Well, long ago, people believed in something called vitalism, the idea that a divine force made living things different from non-living matter. They argued that humans weren't just made of simple chemicals, instead, but were brought to life by a sacred vital fluid, blessed by a divine creator. Many even believed that life could appear spontaneously, like maggots on rotten meat or mushrooms sprouting from decaying wood, as if nature itself conjured life from nothing. But, in the shadows of these grand ideas, a rebellion was brewing. Once upon a time, in the Netherlands, there lived two curious spectacle makers, Hans and Zacharias Janssen. They weren't scientists or scholars, just a father and son with an extraordinary knack for crafting lenses. One day in the late 1500s, while tinkering with their glass, they stumbled upon something magical. They placed two lenses together and discovered they could magnify the unseen world. The first compound microscope was born, and with it, a gateway to an unseen universe. Little did they know, this tiny device would unlock an entire hidden world. But what good is a microscope if no one dares to look closer? Who do you think the first one dared to look closer at? Robert Hooke. Does this name ring a bell? In 1665, Hooke, an English scientist and polymath, published his book entitled Micrographia, or Some Physiological Descriptions of Minute Bodies, made with magnifying glasses, with observations and inquiries thereupon. His books consist of drawings such as the enormous rendition of a flea, compound of a housefly in which he described as almost looking like a lattice. However, there is one that shakes the roots of biology, a cross-section of a plant stem, a thin slice of cork. It reminded him of the small rooms, or cellula, that monks lived in. Thus, the word cells, from the Latin word cella, which means small room, was born. Hooke, known as the man who named the invisible, had unknowingly opened the first chapter of a revolutionary story. But what he saw were only the empty walls of dead plant cells. The real magic was yet to come. In 17th century Delft, a struggling cloth merchant named Anton van Leeuwenhoek needed a tool to inspect thread quality in the booming textile trade. In the 1670s, he built a simple microscope with a single lens mounted on a brass plate. Initially, he used it for fabric inspection, but his curiosity soon led him to examine everything he could find. On May 26, 1675, after a storm flooded Delft, he collected water from his rooftop drains and peered through his lens, only to be shocked by tiny, wriggling creatures moving in the water. These were the first living cells ever seen by human eyes, which he called animalcules, or little animals. Unlike Robert Hooke, whose scientific credentials gave him credibility, Leeuwenhoek struggled to gain acceptance for his discovery due to his lack of formal education. Though Leeuwenhoek's discovery was groundbreaking, the world still clung to the comforting myths of vitalism. But the cracks in the old beliefs were beginning to show. I could say that he is the lens master who brought life into focus. Centuries later, the duo scholars led to the half of the creation of the cell theory. In the 1830s, a German botanist named Matthias Schleiden peered into his microscope and concluded that every part of a plant is made up of cells or structures derived from them, a concept he referred to as phytogenesis. He declared that these tiny units were the building blocks of all plant life, earning him the title, the plant cell pioneer. Inspired by Schleiden's discovery, his zoologist friend, Theodor Schwann, asked a simple question. Could animals be made of cells too? In 1839, he found his answer. All animals are also made of cells when he observed cellular structures of animal nervous tissue similar to what Schleiden described in plant tissues. Together, Schleiden and Schwann duo crafted the first version of cell theory, stating that cells are the basic units of life. But one mystery remained. Where do cells come from? The Great Rebellion, the fall of spontaneous generation. In the heart of the 19th century, a brilliant Jewish scientist named Robert Rimac was about to answer that very question. Through his microscope, he witnessed a breathtaking sight, a single cell quivering, bulging, and splitting into two. This was cell division in action in the chick embryo, the first proof that cells come from pre-existing cells. Wow, that is really cool, right? But well, despite his groundbreaking discovery, Remac's work was ignored by many in the scientific community because of the prejudice he faced. The ancient belief in spontaneous generation still clung stubbornly to life, but not for long. But we have a rescue, Rudolf Virchow, a fearless scientist who took up Remac's torch. In 1857, introduced the principle in the world, omnis cellula e cellula, meaning all cells come from pre-existing cells. This simple but strong remark shattered the idea of spontaneous generation and the last traces of vitalism. Virchow not only completed cell theory, but also laid the groundwork for contemporary medicine, earning him the title of the father of cellular pathology. Thanks to these brave scientific rebels, we now have the modern cell theory, built on three revolutionary truths. 1. All living organisms are composed of one or more cells. 2. The cell is the basic unit of structure and function in living things. 3. All cells arise from pre-existing cells. What seems obvious today was once a radical shift in our understanding of life. The end. Wow, these scientists really unlocked an entire kingdom. But you know what? The story of cell theory continues. It is more than just a chapter in biology. It serves as the cornerstone of modern science and medicine, aiding in the fight against diseases like cancer, unraveling genetic mysteries, and advancing groundbreaking treatments such as stem cell therapy. Science is about curiosity, courage, and questioning what we think we know. The story of cell theory teaches us one thing: never stop looking closer. Who knows what hidden worlds are still waiting to be discovered? So, the next time you think about life, remember, it all begins with the tiniest building block, the cell.